The government's trying to tax money you don't have. Nikki Haley wants to censor people who don't agree with her about Israel. And Tucker Carlson interviewed Alex Jones, and we get to listen. It's Friday, so it's time to cover all these top news stories, so let's get into it. So the government is trying to tax unrealized gains of a couple that invested in an Indian company. An unrealized gain means like if you buy a stock in the stock market and the stock price goes up but you never sell it, the government would be able to tax the gains that you made even though you don't have any extra value because you haven't sold it yet. And the government coming in and saying, hey, you bought a stock price at 100, it went up to 150, you now owe us taxes on that extra $50. But because you haven't sold it yet, you actually haven't realized a gain. And so I want to play a quick video for you from somebody that I really like. His name's Peter Schiff. And he is really good at breaking things down and making it easy to understand. And he's going to explain why this is such a bad idea.
The whole purpose of the income is to tax the actual earnings that you have, the gains that you derive. So the way you derive a gain on property is you rent it out and you collect rents, and then the government can tax those rents as income. Or you sell the property, you don't have it anymore, and you receive an amount that exceeds what you paid, and that difference is your gain, and that's what they can tax. If you just buy a house and you don't rent it out, you live in it, and it appreciates, you haven't gained anything. You have the same house that you bought. It doesn't matter that somebody else paid more money for the house across the street. That doesn't affect, you have the same house. It's got the same number of bathrooms, right? It provides the same shelter. You're no better off just because the price has gone up. And of course, what happens if the price goes up one year and the government says, oh, you owe an income tax, and then it goes down the next year? Well, now what are you going to do, right? So this is a huge constitutional principle.
So I looked into it a little bit, and apparently this is just on foreign investments. But what Peter is arguing right now is that if we start with foreign investments and eventually it's going to come back here, it opens up this huge floodgates, a slippery slope argument about why it would eventually come back to haunt us in the future. And I just want to show something really quick. The very first income tax, and this is according to the IRS, was levied in 1862, and it levied a 3% tax on incomes between $600 and $10,000 and a 5% tax on incomes of more than $10,000. And I did some math. 3% or $600 back in 1862 was roughly $20,000. Okay, so everybody making over $20,000 back in 1862 had to pay a 3% tax. Where are we at right now? Way higher than that. Way higher than that. My wife and I don't make nearly $1 million, and we pay roughly 25-30% taxes. So you give a mouse a cookie, it's going to want a glass of milk. And if you give the Supreme Court a tax, it's going to want some more. So we'll follow this. Hopefully the Supreme Court lands on the right side. We shouldn't be taxing unrealized gains anywhere. Obviously, it doesn't make any sense. So hopefully they come down on the right side. All right, the next story is Nikki Haley apparently wants to force universities to adhere to a specific definition of anti-Semitism. She said this in the debate stage on the Republican debate, the one that doesn't matter because Trump's ahead by 50 points. But let's take a look at that, and then we'll talk about it.
The second thing we need to do is Biden made a mistake not including anti-Zionism in the definition of anti-Semitism. If you don't think that Israel has a right to exist, that is anti-Semitic. We will change the definition so that every government, every school has to acknowledge the definition for what it is.
This is automatically disqualifying. And I made a video earlier in the week talking about how these universities were coming out against harassment. And frankly, it was something that I think I got a little bit wrong. I didn't exactly say that they were totally wrong. I was kind of saying that it's crazy that they wouldn't say it's harassment. I know that the college rules, I need to maybe look into this a little bit more, but the college rules when it comes to harassment and speech aren't exactly in line with the First Amendment. Colleges can have their own rules. The problem, obviously, is that they are adhering to one set of principles when it comes to things like LGBTQ issues, black rights, and then they're clearly adhering to a different set of rules when it comes to the Jewish community and talking about Intifada. I mean, if there was a group of people on an Ivy League campus 2 years ago that was saying, kill the LGBTQ people, do you think that speech would have stood? And they said, well, that's it's harassment, but depending on the context, definitely not. Those people would have been expelled straight out. So what I think is important is that the people on the right, conservatives, libertarians, make sure that we're always fighting for free speech, not saying, hey, you censored some type of speech, so we want to censor this other type of speech. That's a lose-lose situation, and we need to make sure we stick to our principles. And the last story is Tucker Carlson interviewed Alex Jones on X on his show, and this ties in with the last story with Nikki Haley, because this is exactly what I'm talking about. If we want Tucker Carlson to be able to interview Alex Jones, who has been deemed too extreme to listen to, he's been banned from basically all the platforms, even X. I don't think he's even still allowed on X, but Tucker Carlson interviewed him, so he's kind of allowed if somebody has him on. But if we want to listen to opposing opinions and everybody's opinions, then we should be allowed to do that. And it's awesome, frankly, that Elon Musk purchased X, so now we can literally listen to whatever we want. If you want to make the most extreme commercial, as long as you're not like inciting violence, basically Elon Musk allows you to be on the platform. I guess there's a couple exceptions to this, but look at this beautiful interview.
Future is not human. The human era is over. In America and Asia and the Middle East. 5G bathing you in them. The ancestors before us that did incredible things and is operating. But
now you can go and watch the entire interview if you want to. And if we want to be able to watch things like this on the right, and we want to hear all of the opinions, people who hate on the government, which is basically what Alex Jones has been doing for the past 20 years. You want to be able to listen to people on both sides talk about the trans issue, BLM, all these different things that are deemed too sensitive on lots of other platforms. We need to make sure that we stand up for free speech every single step of the way, and we don't cave to pressure. I want to be able to hear what Alex Jones has to say, but in order to do that, I have to be willing to hear what all the crazy leftist college kids also want to say. So let's stand up for free speech across the board. Everybody should be able to do it. Unless you are inciting violence, then you should be allowed to speak. And the solution to one side banning certain types of speech is not for us to also say, okay, well, then we want to ban this type of speech. Absolutely not. That is not the standard, and we need to stand up and say so. So until next time, stay safe, live free, and I will talk to you soon. See ya.